You saw what he did to the competition. What stood out to you?
I think the first thing that stood out to me was the fact that he performed exactly as he has been the past couple of years. Something that you may have seen in these Olympic Games is there's a lot of upsets. Certain athletes that we think were going to win don't. Athletes who weren't even potentially going to make the podium all of a sudden skyrocket to that first place position. So he has a ton of pressure. We've been hyping him up. Everyone's been hyping this man up. And he just stays to the core, right? He's a quiet guy, but there's this inner fire of drive and hunger to win that we haven't seen in a long time. And the fact that he delivered when everything was on the line proves to me that he's not only physically capable, but here, which in my view is the most important part of any sport, this man has it together here. He still has more races to come, but he's smashed everyone. I mean, his last lap is so extraordinarily fast. His ability to manage lactic acid, which is the pain in the last lap, he's in another level. And we're seeing the makings, in my view, of someone who could do multiple Olympic Games. Again, he's got more races. I don't want to talk about that stuff yet. I've also been keeping my distance from him as much as I want to engage and talk to him and tell him how proud of him I am. You know, he's in his zone. So he's in what I call the tunnel. He's in the tunnel right now, and he's in that zone.
You mentioned in your tweet there how it just destroys your opponent's psyche. I saw an interview with Jenning Dubois, who's the silver medalist, who was in the lead on that final lap, and he said, I could feel him coming. I could hear him coming. And in my head, I'm thinking like the Jaws theme song, like Jordan Stolz was like, Donna, just creeping on him. So explain that, what that does, feeling your opponent, hearing your opponent, and the rest of the speed skating world watching what Jordan Stolz did in that race. What does that do to your opponent's mentals as you move forward?
Well, long track speed skating is a race where it is a race against the clock. You are in your own lane. Unlike short track speed skating, where you're racing around and passing in their strategy and jostling and jockeying for position. This is all about going as fast as you possibly can. And so when you see someone who historically has had a last lap that is just so remarkable, it does two things. One, you almost anticipate this person is going to go faster than you, which is not a good thing. You don't want to be in that feeling where almost like you're waiting for him to beat you. And so he's already made a name for himself to be this person who is a finisher. So a finisher in long track speed skating is, Jordan is not a classical 500-meter sprinter. He is someone, I think, that lives between the space of a 1,000-meter athlete and a 1,500-meter athlete. And you may ask, like, well, what the hell is the difference? Well, the whole difference is about 30 more seconds. And that can make or break a lot of these athletes. And so he has this really special ability to just go so fast at the end of the race. But the psyche for the other athletes that are getting ready for the forthcoming, or for the events that are upcoming, which is the 500 meters, this is how it's going to change a lot of his game. He's going to have to get off that line really fast. But if I was a competitor and I was someone else who was looking at this kid and seeing what he was trying to do, which is do something that hasn't been done for many, many years and win multiple gold medals, I would be really concerned about, does he have the ability to pass me? Am I going to be paired with him going into that day of the 500 meters or the 1,500? And how do I stay in my own lane, in my own zone? So the mental game, in my view, is the single greatest lever for either a catastrophe or for triumph in any of these Olympic athletes' games. And there's just no margin for error. I mean, literally, this comes down to hundredths and sometimes tenths or even thousandths of a second, which are just so small. And they train 4, 8, sometimes 12 years of their life to be perfect on that day. I mean, it's maniacal, right? We think about football and baseball and basketball. If they have a bad quarter or a bad game, they can reset and they can go back. Okay, I'm going to play again. I'm going to play again next week. It doesn't happen for these guys. They have one shot. They have to be perfect on that day. They're trying to harness the power of a 4 or 8 year journey, compress it into this moment where sometimes athletes are great next week, but you know what? Next week's not the Olympics. Or they were great 2 weeks ago or a month ago. And timing that peak is just so critical. The Dutch traditionally have been truly extraordinary at timing the peak. They just have somehow professionalized it. They understand it. And this is the first time in a very long time that we have seen an American almost just blow the doors off of anyone. And in my view, it comes from a lot of his upbringing, his hunger, his desire. He's as I mentioned, he's quiet, he's humble. But make no mistake, this kid has a lion and a hunger inside of him. And you can feel that when he gets to the line.
So you mentioned managing the lactic acid at the end of that run for him, which only makes me think about the fact for most of us, like after leg day, you need help getting up and down the stairs for 2 days. So how does he rebound physically in order to get ready for the 500, considering how much he had to expend energy-wise at the end of that last race?
I think it's a great question. So number one, he is very prepared. He comes from an era of training systems that has been somewhat forgotten in the year 2026. Now, what do I mean by that? So his coach, Coach Bob, is someone who has been a part of the speed skating community for many, many, many years. In the Midwest region, they have traditionally created these very high volume, high intensity, long duration types of training. So high volume typically allows that athlete, if you either have the genetics to continue on and it filters so the cream rises to the top, and those who are left surviving are true genetic specimens. Stolz is one of those people. So we combine this incredible, hard, high volume amount of training, which then catalyzes into the fact that he recovers extremely quickly. He's probably one of the only athletes in long track who can compete in the same day on multiple races and do very, very well. So from my view, I'm not concerned at all with his physical capability and his conditioning. For me, the only concern in the 500 meters is that he's not a classical 500 meter sprinter, meaning like his first 200 to 300 meters is typically not the fastest. Now, has he won in the past? Absolutely. Does he have what it takes to win again? Absolutely. But this is the Olympic Games, and there are true sprinters out there who their first 200 to 300 meters are going to be very hard to beat. He has to keep those things together, and he has all the makings of what it takes to win. And I expect that we will see him on the podium. The color of the medal will be yet to be determined, but it's going to be exciting. It's a ballistic, powerful short race. You mentioned a little bit about the lactic acid. And so if I was going to walk you through what that feels like, so yes, you talk about leg day, you're doing squats or leg press, or maybe doing calf extensions or raises. Speed skating is weird. You're in this very unorthodox position. Okay. So number one, you're basically cutting off blood flow supply to oxygenate and remove the lactic acid. Unlike running or sprinting where your body is being able to flush this through, you're almost like taking a garden hose and you're bending it, right? So it's building up all this blood into the leg and it has nowhere to go. And so their legs, if you watch the last like quarter lap or the last half a lap of a 1,000 meter, or when we watch the 1,500 meter, even the 500 meters, for those that are true sprinters, they can barely move their legs. I mean, it looks like they're just moving so slow. It's to the point where sometimes when I watch, I'm like, what the hell, man? Why aren't they moving their legs faster? Well, the reason why is because those legs feel like they weigh 1,000 pounds each. You got two midgets hanging on the side of your hips that happen to be your quads, okay? So this is like a very challenging, uncomfortable position. And those that train to be in these states, right, that it's called lactic capacity or alactic power. That's the energy system that these athletes train. It's grueling. It's brutal. There's like this weird metallic taste that you get in your mouth. And it's almost like you can feel it in your teeth. It's like, it's a gnarly, gnarly taste. And there's also something called a hack, right? So we call it the 1,000 meter hack. So after they're done, they somehow develop this weird like bronchial hack where it's just like, oh, this very deep, throaty cough. And it's just because they have pushed their body so hard. And it's I know this sounds strange. It's a combination of like, it feels like it's a little bit like it tastes like blood and metal at the same time. I know that's like really nasty, but these long track athletes this is what they do, right? They push themselves to the absolute, the limit of complete obliteration. And those that can sustain the type of lactic acid in that final lap, like the 1,000 and 1,500 meters, is the one that can typically win. Now, I want to preface this by one simple fact. The ice conditions do play a role with that type of lactic acid buildup. So if there's ice conditions that are softer and slower, typically that lactic acid buildup is much earlier in the race, meaning the athlete's endurance also starts to shorten, but it also becomes a really important factor as we look to see in those lap times. So it's really all about who has the guts, who has the conditioning, who has the ability to manage that pain. And this kid's built different, man. You saw it in my tweet. There's just something special about him. I got to watch him race, and I've seen him race many, many times, but I think it's always really fun when you see someone who's got all the pressure on the line and then they deliver. There's something very special about that, right? Because they've got the target on their back and they still rise to the occasion. That's championship mentality right there.